now sell gourmet food and contemporary art. We're setting our course upriver, winding our way in a westerly direction toward the City of London. Along the way, you'll hear about the lifestyles of Londoners today and about the amazing life of the River Thames. Great Stink. A newspaper reported that the smell of the Thames even reached the Houses of Parliament.
Parliament was all but compelled to legislate upon the great London nuisance by the force of sheer stench. A few members, indeed, bent upon investigating the matter to its very depth, ventured into the library, but they were instantaneously driven to retreat, each man with a handkerchief to his nose.
London installed a sewer system and brought the Great Stink to an end. But the bombing of London in World War II damaged London's sewage system, which began flowing into the Thames again. By the 1950s, the river was biologically dead. Once more, the country was forced into action. The sewers were repaired, industry stopped dumping waste into the Thames, reed beds were encouraged to grow along the banks, creating new ecosystems. Today, the Thames is one of the cleanest rivers in the world. More than 100 species of fish live in these waters. Herons, cormorants and other waterfowl have returned. Dolphins and porpoises have been spotted at Tower Bridge, and seals visit Canary Wharf. The modern world poses new challenges every day, including climate change. We can never again take the health of this river for granted. For the sake of England and the world, may the liquid history of the Thames be a story for future generations to tell with pride. Sandwiches, cakes, scones, jam, and a generous dollop of cream, not to mention plenty of good British tea. Spend an evening on the sundowner cruise, relaxing on the river while live music plays in the background and the stunning sights of London pass by. The London Showboat Dinner Cruise features a sumptuous four-course feast with wine. Then dance the night away to live music with professional singers. For more information, ask any crew member.
Most rivers flow in only one direction, but the River Thames changes direction twice a day. The pull of the ocean tide reaches from the mouth of the river past London. So when the tide is low, the river flows downstream, but it flows upstream when the tide is high. In London, the Thames rises and falls 5 to 7 meters, or up to 23 feet, with each change of the tide. This takes skill and training.
The tidal flow also increases the risk of flooding in London, especially during storm surges. After several disastrous floods, the government constructed the Thames Barrier. A few kilometres to our east stands a row of elegantly designed hydraulic steel gates, each weighing over 3,000 tons. When storms blow in from the North Sea, the gates close to protect the city from floods. After the danger passes, the Thames Barrier opens and the river resumes its normal tidal flow.
If you'd like to see the Thames Barrier, the most exhilarating way to do it is in a jet boat. The Thames Jet Tour takes you from Westminster Pier to the Thames Barrier and back in a high-speed military-grade jet boat. It's a speed demon's dream come true. Ask any crew member for more information about this tour and other Thames Jet excursions. Every morning in the skyscrapers at Canary Wharf, a parade of office workers arrives with briefcases and lunchboxes, mobile phones glued to their ears. You might think Canary Wharf is all business all the time, but you'd be wrong. Come the weekend, the executive who spends Monday to Friday buried in stockwoods is with her kids petting sheep at Mudchute City Farm, a rural utopia in the middle of the Isle of Dogs. The loan officer sheds his suit for cycling gear or hikes to the Tower of London on the Thames Path National Trail.
You can see the same phenomenon all over London. Look past the palaces, monuments and souvenir stands, and you'll glimpse the real London lifestyle. A jogger dodging tourists at Trafalgar Square, a kayaker riding the tide under Westminster Bridge, or a mum on the tube carrying fresh fruit home from the farmer's market.
Early risers get up at 4 a.m. to find the perfect bouquet at New Covent Garden Flower Market. Artists sketch the masterpieces at the National Portrait Gallery. Intellectuals go to talks at the Royal Institute of Philosophy. Swing dancers work up a sweat at Saturday Night Swing Club.
And fun lovers flock to any number of parades and public events. My favourite is the Parliamentary Pancake Race on Pancake Day, also known as Shrove Tuesday. There's nothing funnier than watching members of Parliament trying to flip pancakes while they stagger towards the finish line.
Londoners go mad for sport. The whole city is fiercely opinionated about football. Soccer to you Americans. You should hear the roar at a football match at Wembley Stadium. And practically every village, town and county has a club for that most English of games, cricket. Well played!
Culture vultures flock to the Tate museums. Parents take their children to see the robotic dinosaurs in the Natural History Museum, and lovers go on dates in nightclubs, restaurants, and theatres all over town. As Samuel Johnson and many others have said, when you're tired of London, you're tired of life. If pub fare doesn't whet your appetite, London has an international reputation as a gastronome's paradise. Celebrity chefs have set up shop all over town. You've seen Jamie Oliver and that grouchy Gordon Ramsay on television. Why not sample their haute cuisine yourself? My favourites are women chefs like Angela Hartman, who has a little taste of Italy in everything she cooks, and Thomasina Mears, who brought the flavours of Mexican street food to London. In fact, some of the best food in London today is served right on the street. Farmers markets bring the freshest and delectable vegetables straight from the vine to the city. Food stores and street markets serve home-cooked delicacies from around the world. And for real value, look for a good food truck. I'm not kidding. London food trucks serve a lot more than hot dogs these days. Instead, you can tear into scrumptious specialities made with fresh local ingredients and sold at prices no restaurant can match, like Jamaican jerk chicken, Japanese-style macaroons, and American Southern-style barbecue.
Don't let all this multi-culti talk scare you away from traditional English food. For my money, there's absolutely nothing better than good fish and chips. A slab of moist, flaky white fish and crisp fried potatoes so hot they burn your fingers. Douse them in vinegar and you've got a feast. Don't forget two more English favourites, pie and mash and jellied eels. London is also a great place to eat a gourmet hamburger.
How about something a bit more genteel, like afternoon tea? Picture yourself floating down the Thames drinking good British tea and eating finger sandwiches, cakes and scones with jam and a generous dollop of cream. That's just one of City Cruise's exciting excursions that include delightful food and drink. Besides the tea cruise, we feature a lunch cruise, and there's live entertainment on the London Showboat Dinner Cruise and the Sundowner Cruise. For more information, ask any crew member.
Getting back to drinking,
I suspected you might.
you can sample the best of food and drink at an incredible array of London gastropubs. And we have tip-top microbreweries serving artisan handmade beers in varieties you won't find anywhere else, like mango-flavoured wheat beer.
That sounds less like a beer than a pudding. In other words, dessert.
In the early days of the Port of London, ships often anchored in midstream. Lighter men, or freight carriers, unloaded the ship's cargo onto barges. Between ship and shore, pirates and smugglers sometimes robbed the lightermen's barges. Many of these criminals hatched their schemes at the prospect of Whitby, London's oldest riverside pub. Located on the north bank, it remains a London landmark. Look for a small three-story white building with a terrace facing the river beside a weeping willow tree. A hangman's noose dangles over the terrace, a reminder of the prospect of Whitby's criminal past, when it was known as the Devil's Tavern. You'll meet a much nicer crowd there today.
In a few minutes, we'll see an example of how completely Docklands has changed since the glory days of the Port of London. cluster of yellow brick buildings on the South Bank used to be called London's larder. Most of the city's food was unloaded there from ships that sailed from every corner of the globe to the port of London. Just past Butler's Wharf, a narrow inlet marks the district known as Jacob's Island. In the 1800s, this was London's worst slum. Charles Dickens described Jacob's Island in his novel Oliver Twist.
Where the buildings on the banks are dirtiest, and the vessels on the river blackest with the dust of colliers and the smoke of close-built low-roofed houses, there exists the filthiest, the strangest, the most extraordinary of the many localities that are hidden in London.
Bill Sikes, the villain of Oliver Twist, meets his ghastly end on Jacob's Island. Today you can stroll the cobbled streets around Butler's Wharf and Jacob's Island, a district called Bermondsey. The old warehouses have been converted into luxury apartments, restaurants, art galleries and designer clothing shops.
Eastern London used to be the home of London's working class and seafaring men. Many of them worked on the docks in the old port of London, also known as Docklands. Buildings on both sides of the Thames still display the names of the old wharves, a reminder of the years when Docklands was the backbone of London's economy. When we sail on the Tower Bridge, we will enter the ancient city of London, known as the Square Mile. The City of London on the North Bank is a city within a city. It's the oldest part of London, where the Romans built Londinium in the 1st century. They surrounded it with a wall that remained there until the 1700s. Later, William the Conqueror built a fortification at the eastern end of the wall. This became the Tower of London, the ancient stone fortress with 4 domed turrets.
The main span of Tower Bridge opens in the centre to let tall ships sail through. The bridge also has an overhead walkway added, so pedestrians could cross when the bridge was up. Today, that walkway houses part of the Tower Bridge exhibition, where you can learn more about this world-famous bridge and enjoy incredible views of London from 42 metres or 138 feet above the River Thames.
The HMS Belfast is permanently moored along the South Bank. This gigantic grey and blue British warship is now a floating museum with interactive exhibits that help you imagine what life was like for her crew during the Second World War and the Korean War. The Belfast looks huge, but her crew slept in hammocks just 52 centimetres or 20 inches apart.
Okay, ladies and gents, we are shortly coming into our first stop on our way up to Westminster. This is Tower Pier. If anyone wishes to leave us at Tower Pier, the exit will be at the front of the boat on the left-hand side. Just remember to take any personal belongings with you before you disembark. Stay on board the boat if you are going to Westminster, Big Ben or the London Eye. Okay, the next stop following Tower Pier will be Westminster Pier. Scheduled to leave here at 2:55, about 7 or 8 minutes or so. We'll be here for a short while and then we'll head up to Westminster. Thank you very much and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.